In the quiet moments before the world awakens, there exists a sacred stillness, a silence that speaks more loudly than any noise. It is here, in the space between breath and thought, where the seed of victory is planted. Not the kind of victory defined by conquest or applause, but the inner triumph of being fully present, fully alive, and untouched by the chaos that surrounds us. This victory begins not with striving, but with stillness, not with doing, but with being. To awaken with a still mind is to begin the day as the Buddha began his teachings, with awareness, with compassion, and with clarity. It is to understand that the battle of the day is not out there, but within. Before we take a single step, before the first word is spoken or task is begun, we must win this quiet war in our own minds. Because if we do not govern our minds, we become governed by the world. The Buddha said, "All that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become." This is not a metaphor. It is a law more powerful than gravity. Our thoughts shape our reality, moment by moment, breath by breath. And so, the first discipline of a victorious morning is the discipline of thought. What do we choose to dwell on as we rise? Fear or faith? Regret or resolve? Do we carry the burdens of yesterday? Or do we meet the morning like a monk meeting the sunrise, empty, awake, ready? Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the presence of full awareness. When we sit in meditation, not to escape the world but to see it clearly, we are training ourselves to return to this still point within us. It is here that wisdom resides. It is here that freedom begins. The world will pull us in 1,000 directions, but we must return again and again to the quiet center. This is our temple. This is our refuge. And what do we find in that refuge? Not emptiness, but spaciousness. Not silence, but truth. The truth that everything is impermanent. The truth that suffering arises from attachment. The truth that we are not our thoughts, not our roles, not our past. We are awareness itself, and with this awareness comes power, not to control others, but to master ourselves. Each morning we are given a choice: to drift or to direct, to react or to respond, to numb ourselves with noise or to greet the day with noble attention. The Buddha taught that right view is the beginning of the Eightfold Path. Right view is seeing clearly without distortion, without delusion. It is waking up, not just from sleep, but from the trance of unconscious living. It is the bold decision to live deliberately, with eyes wide open. Belief is not something we inherit. It is something we must investigate over and over through direct experience. To believe in the Dharma is not to accept dogma, but to test it in the laboratory of our own lives. Can kindness dissolve anger? Can presence dissolve anxiety? Can silence teach us more than speech ever could? These are not ideas. These are invitations. Invitations to live from a deeper place. And when belief becomes embodied, when it moves from the head to the heart to the hands, it transforms into wisdom. Wisdom that does not need to shout. Wisdom that does not need to be right. It simply is, like the mountain, like the ocean, like the breath. To begin the day with wisdom is to begin with humility, to recognize that we do not control the world, that we cannot predict what will happen, but we can choose our response. We can choose to bring compassion where others bring criticism. We can choose to breathe when others choose to break. We can choose the still mind, even in a storm. Discipline is not punishment. It is love in motion. To rise early not because we must, but because we may. To sit in silence, not because it is easy, but because it is essential. Discipline is the quiet vow we make each day to not abandon ourselves, no matter what comes. It is the courage to return to what matters, again and again. The world may applaud speed and noise, but the Buddha smiled in silence. He walked slowly, mindfully, one step at a time. Each step was a prayer, each breath a blessing. In his presence, There was no rush, only peace, and that peace was his power. When we begin our mornings with that same spirit, with reverence, with purpose, we claim our place in the lineage of the awakened. We do not need robes or rituals to walk this path, only sincerity, only presence, only the willingness to meet each moment as it is, without judgment, without grasping. Purpose is not something we find, it is something we live, in the way we pour our tea, in the way we greet the stranger, in the way we speak to ourselves when no one is listening. Purpose is presence. Purpose is love in action. Let us rise each morning with the vow to live fully, to listen deeply, to speak truthfully, and to love fiercely. Let us not wait for peace to find us. Let us become the peace we seek, not someday, now, not after success, or clarity, or approval, but here, in this very breath. Your morning victory does not depend on the world being kind to you. It depends on you being kind to the world. It does not depend on everything going your way. It depends on you showing up anyway. With grace, with grit, with gratitude. Let the stillness of your mind be your superpower. Let your calm be contagious. Let your joy be rooted, not in what you have, but in who you are when all else is stripped away. This is the way of the Buddha. This is the path of the wise. This is the morning victory that no one can take from you. And it begins with a still mind. To carry this stillness into the current of the day is to carry a lantern through a forest at night. The darkness may remain, but your steps are lit. You no longer fear the unknown, because you are anchored in the known, the breath, the body, the now. And in this presence, the world begins to reveal itself, not as a series of problems to solve, but as a sacred unfolding. The Buddha did not teach from a throne. He walked barefoot among villagers, farmers, kings, and beggars. He taught not through sermons, but through still presence, through questions, through silence. He did not command, he invited. And today, centuries later, that same invitation echoes quietly across the mornings of those who dare to live with intention. Come back. Come home to yourself. As we move from the stillness of morning into the movement of the day, we do not abandon our center. We carry it with us. This is mindfulness in motion. To brush your teeth with attention is a sacred act. To wash the dishes with love is an act of liberation. Nothing is too small to hold awareness. Nothing is too mundane to become a doorway to awakening. The trap is to believe that enlightenment happens in special moments, in mountaintop retreats, in temples, in visions. But the truth is quieter. It hides in the ordinary, in the pause between tasks, in the inhale before speaking, in the choice to listen fully instead of preparing your next reply. These are the moments that build a luminous life. Each interaction we have is a reflection of our inner state. If we carry confusion, we will see chaos. If we carry stillness, we will see clarity. The world becomes a mirror. That is why it is not selfish to cultivate inner peace. It is the most generous act we can offer. When you meet someone with presence, you feel it. They are not trying to impress you. They are simply with you. Fully. Honestly. That kind of presence can shift the air in a room. That kind of presence heals without words. Clarity is not knowing all the answers. It is knowing what questions matter. The Buddha didn't promise certainty. He promised the tools to cut through illusion. And one of those tools is right understanding. The ability to see things as they are, not as we wish they were. This clarity begins when we stop trying to fix life and instead start to understand it. Life is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be lived. With open hands, with open eyes. What blinds us is not ignorance alone, but clinging to who we think we are, to how things used to be, to how we believe they should be. We suffer not because life changes, but because we resist that change. But when we learn to flow, to bend like bamboo in the wind, we discover a quiet strength. We don't break, we adapt, we transform. This is resilience, and it begins in the mind. The still mind is not rigid, it is spacious. It allows joy to come and go like a breeze through an open window. It allows pain to rise and pass without panic. It allows others to be who they are, without the need to control or fix them. That kind of mind cannot be shaken, not by criticism, not by praise, not even by loss, because it does not grasp, it observes, it allows. This is the training, not to change the world, but to relate to it differently. To meet difficulty with curiosity, not dread. To meet suffering with compassion, not judgment. To meet change with grace, not fear. Every challenge becomes a lesson, every disappointment a teacher, every heartbreak an initiation. But we must be willing to feel deeply, to sit with the discomfort instead of running from it. The Buddha never promised us comfort, he promised us awakening. And awakening often begins in the dark. In the moment when things fall apart, we are given the sacred chance to rebuild, not just our lives, but our perception. Gratitude becomes the glue that holds us together, not because everything is perfect, but because we begin to see what is. The breath, the sky, the people we love, the chance to begin again. Gratitude softens us, it opens the heart. It returns us to what matters most. When we are grateful, we stop chasing, we start receiving. And what do we receive? Not more things, not more approval, but more life, more presence, more wonder. The simple joy of a morning sun on your skin, the laughter of a child, the taste of tea brewed slowly. These moments, too often missed, are not small. They are the fabric of a meaningful life. Adaptability is the wisdom of water. It does not resist the shape of the riverbank. It flows around the stone, over the cliff, into the cracks, and in time it wears down even the hardest rock. That is how we must move through the world. Not forcefully but fluidly, not rigidly, but wisely. This is not weakness, this is mastery. To master life is not to dominate it, it is to dance with it, to move with its rhythm, to accept its changes, to trust its seasons. The Buddha did not teach us to escape the world, but to embrace it, awake, aware, at peace. To cultivate this peace, we must return again and again to the breath. It is always here, always honest. When the mind races, return to the breath. When the heart aches, return to the breath. When you don't know what to do, return to the breath. This is your anchor. This is your temple. You do not need to go anywhere else to find it. Resilience is not never falling. It is the grace with which we rise, again and again, each time wiser, each time softer, each time stronger. Life will shake us. That is inevitable. But whether we collapse or awaken, that is a choice. The teachings of the Buddha are not ancient relics. They are alive. They breathe through you each time you choose presence over reaction, love over fear, stillness over frenzy. You are not separate from this lineage. You are a part of it, a continuation, a living flame. And so begin each morning not with hurry, but with reverence, not with dread, but with gratitude, not with fear, but with faith. Faith not in some distant future, but in this present moment, in this breath, in the unshakable truth that you are enough. You have always been enough. You simply forgot, and now you remember. Let this remembrance shape how you move, how you speak, how you see. Let it soften your voice, slow your pace, deepen your gaze. Let it guide you when the road is unclear. Let it hold you when the heart is heavy. Let it lift you when the world forgets its light. You are not here to survive the day. You are here to awaken within it, to touch the sacred in the ordinary, to be a lighthouse in the storm, to live in such a way that others feel safe in your calm, moved by your kindness, and reminded simply by your presence that peace is possible. Let that be your victory. Let that be your morning. Victory is not loud. It does not announce itself with banners or applause. It rises quietly like the sun, casting light upon all it touches, without asking for recognition. A morning victory is measured not in achievements, but in alignment, in how deeply you begin your day in harmony with truth, with self, with stillness. It is here, in the unshakable inner world, that the day is truly won. From this still foundation, you become more than a responder to life. You become a creator of it. The mind that is trained in stillness becomes a sculptor of experience. Where others see noise, you find rhythm. Where others see burden, you find blessing. Where others tighten, you soften. And this, not by accident, but by deliberate practice. This practice is not glamorous. It does not happen on stages. It happens when no one is watching, when the alarm rings and you resist the urge to scroll. When irritation arises, and you pause instead of snapping back. When your old habits scream for attention, but you return to the breath. This is where the real transformation takes root. Each moment becomes a choice, to act from old patterns or from present wisdom. And each time you choose presence, you strengthen a new pathway, a new mind. Just as a river carves a canyon with persistence, so too does your conscious attention carve the shape of your life. The Buddha taught that right effort is not the frantic effort of the ego trying to control outcome. It is the gentle, steady effort of returning again and again to what nourishes the soul. To return to compassion, to return to mindfulness, to return to love, even when the world seems to offer every reason not to. This effort is not fueled by pressure, but by joy. The joy of knowing you are not a slave to your impulses. The joy of realizing that freedom was never somewhere else. It was always the result of a liberated mind, and when your mind is free, your actions become pure. Your words carry healing. Your eyes reflect peace. No part of the day is too small to be sacred. The way you step into your shoes, the way you slice fruit, the way you listen when someone speaks. These moments accumulate not in the eyes of the world, but in the soul. They build a quiet confidence that does not need to shout. It simply radiates. A truly awakened being does not need to prove anything. Their life is the proof. Their presence is the teaching. They walk into a room and the air changes. Why? Because their energy is not scattered. Their attention is whole. Their heart is open. Their mind is still. This is what it means to be victorious. Not to be above the world, but to be rooted so deeply in truth that nothing can shake you from it. This rootedness is not passive. It is a fierce peace. A peace that holds its ground when chaos comes. A peace that responds without reacting. A peace that walks through fire and remains whole. This kind of peace is not found in escape. It is found in presence, not in hiding from the world, but in being so fully here that the world can no longer pull you from your center. To live like this, we must train, not just the mind but the heart. Compassion is not a luxury. It is a discipline. It is not weakness. It is strength refined. The Buddha's compassion was not sentimental. It was fierce and vast. It embraced all beings without preference. Can we do the same? Can we look into the eyes of someone who disagrees with us and see not an enemy but a mirror? This is the higher victory, the victory over self-centeredness, the victory over division, the victory over the illusion that we are separate. When we recognize that every being is carrying their own invisible burdens, we soften, we speak more gently, we judge less, we love more wisely. Gratitude helps us stay in this space. It is the constant returning to abundance, even in scarcity. It is not blind optimism but radical presence. To be grateful does not mean to ignore pain. It means to widen your lens, to see the whole picture. Yes, there is grief, and there is also grace. Yes, there is loss, and there is also learning. Yes, there is uncertainty, and there is also the certainty of breath, of ground, of now. When you begin your day from this place, the world cannot pull you out of yourself so easily. You are less reactive, less consumed by the trivial, more open to wonder, more resilient in the face of difficulty. This is not because life has changed, but because you have. The mind that was once a battlefield becomes a garden, and in this garden, you begin to plant new seeds, seeds of wisdom, of patience, of truth, and you water them not once, but daily, through your thoughts, your choices, your way of being. Sometimes you will forget. That's part of it. The path is not linear. The awakened mind is not always consistent, but it is committed, and that is what matters. When you forget, you return. When you fall, you rise. When you feel lost, you breathe. You sit. You remember. This remembering is a sacred act. It is the realignment with your truest self, the self that is not your name, not your role, not your history, the self that is awareness itself. When you live from that self, your actions begin to flow from love, not lack, from clarity, not confusion, from stillness, not struggle. You begin to realize that you do not need more. You need less distraction, less comparison, less noise. The more you simplify, the more you amplify. What remains is real. What remains is radiant. Even your pain begins to shift. You stop asking why it came and begin asking what it has come to teach. You stop resisting and start listening. You see that suffering too can be a teacher, harsh but honest. And in its presence you deepen, you soften, you grow. This growth is invisible to most. It won't make headlines, but it will change your life, and perhaps the lives of those around you, because when one person becomes still, they create a ripple, and those ripples reach further than we can imagine. A single act of presence can shift a lineage. A single breath can save a life, yours. So breathe. Breathe not just for survival, but for remembrance. Breathe not just for calm, but for clarity. Breathe as the Buddha breathed, fully, deeply, with reverence for the miracle of now. Let your mornings become sacred again, not by what you accomplish, but by how you arrive, not by how much you do, but by how present you are in what you do. Let the rising sun be your bell of mindfulness. Let the first sip of water be your blessing. Let your silence be your strength. There is no need to search elsewhere for peace. It is not in another place, or person, or possession. It is in your own still mind, the one you meet each morning, the one you return to each night, the one you carry through every breath in between. Let this still mind be your morning victory. The still mind is the birthplace of wise action. It does not remain idle, it does not retreat into passivity. It listens, it watches, and then when the time is right, it moves. Not from impulse, not from fear, but from deep understanding. This kind of action is precise. It does not waste energy. It touches only what needs to be touched, and lets go of all that does not serve. In this way, we begin to live not chaotically, but artfully. Life becomes less of a struggle and more of a dance. With each moment, we move with awareness. With grace, we respond to what arises, not with habitual reactivity, but with the elegance of presence. There is a dignity in this way of living, a quiet nobility that cannot be faked or forced. The Buddha's life was a model of this integration. He was not just a teacher, but a practitioner, not just a thinker, but a walker. He rose with the sun, sat in silence, moved with intention. His life was his teaching. Every word he spoke had been tested in the crucible of his own experience. He spoke only what he knew to be true through living it. That is the calling for us as well. Not to memorize wisdom, but to embody it. Not to preach it, but to practice it. And the practice begins not in great feats, but in small consistencies. Rising each day with reverence, speaking with care, listening with humility, serving without the need to be seen. These are the foundations of a victorious life. A victorious life is not without pain. In fact, the deeper one walks the path, the more tender one becomes. You feel the world more fully, not just your own sorrows, but the collective ache of all being. This is not a burden. This is a doorway to compassion. To be aware of suffering is not to drown in it, but to develop the capacity to hold it with love. When you hold space for your own pain, you begin to hold space for others. You meet them not with judgment, but with understanding. You see beyond the surface. You see the child behind the anger, the fear behind the arrogance, the heartbreak behind the silence. This vision is not granted, it is grown, slowly through the daily work of awareness. Awareness that begins in the morning, when your eyes first open. Awareness that is cultivated with every choice you make before the noise of the world creeps in. Before the screens, before the headlines, before the demands. In that sacred sliver of time, you choose your orientation. Will you begin from peace or from panic, from presence or from performance? It is not the amount of time that matters, but the depth of attention. Even 5 minutes of true stillness can change the trajectory of a day. Even one mindful breath, taken with full presence, can break a cycle of unconsciousness. You do not need more hours, you need more presence in the hours you already have. Presence sharpens the mind, but it also softens the heart. It allows us to see clearly without becoming cold. It reveals the truth without losing tenderness. It holds paradox, joy and sorrow, beauty and decay, rising and falling, not as contradictions, but as companions. When you live from this awareness, you no longer fear impermanence. You no longer run from endings, because you understand that every ending is the seed of a beginning, that what fades makes space for what is to come, that letting go is not loss, but liberation. The mind clings because it believes it can control. The still mind releases because it knows control is an illusion. It sees that life moves in its own rhythm, and our task is not to dominate that rhythm, but to join it, to listen for the silence beneath the noise, to find rest, not in absence of activity, but in alignment with truth. This is where true energy comes from, not from caffeine or adrenaline, but from congruence. When your values and your actions are aligned, you stop leaking energy. You move through your day with clarity. You are no longer pulled in 10 directions. You become one, integrated. Such wholeness is rare, and when others feel it in you, they are drawn not to your accomplishments, but to your authenticity. Not to what you do, but to how you are. This is the quiet magnetism of the awakened. They do not try to persuade, their being is the message. So live in such a way that your presence teaches more than your words, that your silence carries more than your speeches, that your smallest actions, how you greet a stranger, how you treat the earth, how you handle difficulty become your temple. Temple is not a building, it is the sacredness with which you meet this moment, this now, this breath, and the next, and the next. You do not need incense or statues to find the divine. You only need attention. The divine is hidden in plain sight, beneath your feet, behind your eyes, within your heart. And your heart, when opened, becomes a refuge, not just for you, but for all who meet you. It becomes a space where others feel safe to rest, to be real, to be seen. And this too is a form of victory. Not the kind that conquers, but the kind that heals. To be a healing presence is to embody the Dharma. It is to bring wisdom into every room you enter, not by imposing it, but by being it. A still mind, a warm heart, an unshakable spirit. These are your offerings, these are your tools. And as you walk this path, not perfectly, but sincerely, you begin to notice something miraculous. Life begins to meet you differently, not because it has changed, but because you have. Your perception sharpens, your patience deepens, your joy no longer depends on outcomes. It arises from being in right relationship with what is. This is the freedom the Buddha spoke of. Not freedom from life, but freedom in life. Freedom to love without clinging, to act without grasping, to care without controlling, to give without keeping score, to live without the constant need to be more. You are already more than enough. You always were. The morning stillness only reminds you, and it is this remembrance that becomes the revolution, the quiet revolution of choosing peace in a world addicted to chaos, of choosing depth in a world skimming the surface, of choosing being over doing, stillness over striving, truth over approval. And when you fall, as you will, you do not scold yourself. You smile, you breathe, you return, again and again. This returning is the essence of practice, not perfection, but presence, not arrival, but awakening. Awakening is not some distant peak. It is the simple act of being fully alive to this moment. It is noticing the breeze. It is feeling the weight of your body on the ground. It is hearing the sound of your own heart and not running from it. It is being so awake that even pain becomes sacred. Let the morning be your reminder. Let it be your invitation. Let it be your gentle vow that no matter how noisy the world becomes, you will return. That no matter how far you wander, you will come home to yourself, to this breath, to the still mind, where victory lives. Victory not as conquest, but as contentment. Victory not as status, but as silence. Victory not as glory, but as groundedness. The kind of victory that needs no audience, because it is already whole. So rise, not to conquer the day, but to meet it. Not to prove yourself, but to express your truth. Not to chase something outside you, but to awaken what is already within. Let this be the way you begin. Let this be your moting. Let this be your victory.